Who is not religious? We'll also look at this as a rhetorical question later on. Now, of course, in life, in all areas of life, be it religion, politics, law enforcement, education, entertainment, we have good and bad people because we all make mistakes, sometimes grave errors. However, let's look at those who are totally against religion, anti-religion, not interested at all. Clearly, the atheist, many scientists, hedonists, pure materialists, communists, New Agers, today's so-called yoga, the so-called spiritual but not religious. Ironically, many fundamentalist universalists. Now let's look at those who are interested in religion: scholars, educators of comparative religions, people who want to better their way of life, to reduce suicide, alcoholism, drug addiction, those who clearly want to help others with food, clothing, and shelter. A Pew Research poll demonstrates that, in very general terms, 80% of the world's population is religious, 20% non-religious. In America, 77% of Americans find religion to be very important in their lives. 83% believe in God or a higher power. In Psychology Today, it is stated that 75% of relevant studies show the link between religion and psychological well-being, mental health, and a longer life, better health habits, enhanced coping skills, dealing with stress, social and community support. While it is pointed out that non-religious people often suffer from more depression, loneliness, anxiety, and stress. Now, often people will make the erroneous claim that religion is responsible for most of the world's wars, and a little bit of research shows that this is totally false. Less than 10% of the world's wars have had religious motivations. So let's look at some of the downsides of religion. Definitely supports tribalism, which can cause others to be suspicious of others, can cause one to be very superstitious, to have blind beliefs, blind faith without any verification. And of course, religion can also produce, as in other areas of life, very greedy, power-hungry people. And it's for these reasons that many completely turn away from the positive benefits of religion. Now, it is a fact that when many people say they are not religious, they are very often claiming that they are not monotheists. They're not Jews or Christians or Muslims. But we have to remember that the English term religion encompasses all of these traditions around the world: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jain, Sikh, Taoism, Shinto, Confucianism, the indigenous religions around the world. So, in pointing out the errors of the monotheistic religions, which clearly are unscientific, this is where many have a real problem with religion. So remember, we need to get a grander overview. Now, when Carl Sagan, for example, the great scientist, great cosmologist, pointed out the vital importance of science in life and completely debunking the Christian view of creation, he was accused of being totally anti-religious, to which he replied, quote, "Religion deals with history, with poetry, with great literature, with ethics, with morality, including the morality of the heartfelt compassion for the least fortunate among us. All these things I endorse wholeheartedly. Where religion gets into trouble is in the cases where it pretends to know something about science. And again, Carl Sagan is obviously talking about the biblical understanding of life as a very unscientific view, to which he says, quote, "Who is more humble, the scientist who looks at the universe with an open mind, or someone who says the Bible is literal truth?" End quote. So clearly when people take the Bible, and obviously the quote-unquote Old Testament was the Torah of the Jews, and the New Testament put together, it becomes a very unscientific, at best, view of life. A Garden of Eden, two white people, male, female, a snake, eating an apple, causing them to sin. And this is the Bible that's used to swear on in a court of law to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So clearly, when it comes down to these creation stories, which one may find in the many religious traditions of the world, though not taken literally but symbolically, though of course some do take them literally, which is one the case of the Bible, obviously taking literally, and only symbolically by some after the revolution of science. Obviously, there is no provable God, a one male creator being, or goddess, one female creator being. And Carl Sagan gives a wonderful analogy that forces us all to take a much grander view of existence itself and a much more humble view. He said, quote, "We are like mites on a plum that is this little planet that goes around an inconsequential local star of the sun, which is on the obscure outskirts of an ordinary galaxy, the Milky Way, which contains 400 billion other stars, and this galaxy is one of 100 billion other galaxies which make up the universe, and perhaps this universe is one of many other universes." End quote. So while religious life can obviously be extremely positive in the lives of people, we have to be very careful where we tread and humbly admit our relative insignificance in this material world. However, it is religion that is about that which goes beyond the material, and even science recognizes that there will be an end to all of this material existence. So religion is really about that which goes beyond the material into the spirit realm. Now, when it came to the ultimate matters of creation, in the Hindu yoga religion, Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, the wise rishis simply said, "Ka," who knows? And in the great creation hymn, and please visit our podcast on the creation hymn, the rishis merely began by saying, "Ajoti, Ajoti, Nirama." Darkness, darkness, no name and form. Obviously, Carl Sagan explored many of the world's religions as a true scientist, someone seeking to know, i.e. science. And when confronting Hinduism, Carl Sagan said the following, quote, "The Rig Veda, a collection of early Sanskrit hymns, is the most sophisticated ancient cosmological idea coming from Asia, and particularly from India. And here there is a tradition of skeptical questioning and unself-conscious humility before the great cosmic mysteries. The Hindu religion is the only one of the world's great faiths dedicated to the idea that the cosmos itself undergoes an infinite number of deaths and rebirths. So appreciating the intellect and the humility of this great cosmologist, Carl Sagan, and many other thoughtful scientists, religious people need to assume the same attitudes, and not that we have all the answers. We all have beliefs, we all have faith, belief as assumptions, faith as hope, but we want to carry those through to more or less convictions and a guarantee. So our beliefs start as assumptions. This is hypothesis in the scientific method, but we want to follow them through testing, corroboration, to convictions. And we all have faith about people, relationships, things we're involved in, hopes. But we want to carry these through time and testing, and sincerity to basically a guarantee about a relationship, a job, a religion, for example. This is truly blending science and religion together. Therefore, who is not religious? A rhetorical question. If we actually look at the root meaning of the English word religion, religio, it simply means to link. And it goes back to the 1st century BCE in Old Latin prior to Christianity. And it simply meant a moral conviction, a sense of duties, obligations. So in this sense, are not all mature, thoughtful people seeking to link, to understand who they are, body, mind, emotions, what life is all about, this linking process. And of course, later in the 1500s, the word religion became specifically associated with spirit beings, and specifically God, which obviously didn't exist, the term, prior to that. So this is where the confusion often comes in. But we can look at the understanding of spirit beings as something that has been around since the dawn of thinking. As humans, think about what goes beyond. Before birth, these awesome feelings inside of us, what happens after physical death. And this is where Hinduism and many other religions also focus on the spiritual nature, which is sometimes vague to many, even within the religions of the world, but within the Hindu yoga religion, Hindu Dharma, Hinduism, we clearly define what is this inner essence, and it perfectly conforms with science. This inner essence of all of us is pure energy. It is light we can see within us, and also the feeling of lightness, and also the feeling of love. This is what we Hindus call the Atmana, that which is not our mind. It's beyond the body, mind, emotions, but reflects into them. And it is the Atmana, or soul, if you will, which, by the way, means incorporeal, has a very similar meaning. But this Atmana is defined as Satchit Ananda, pure existence, pure energy, light, and the feeling of warmth or bliss. This is science, energy, and light, and heat, which translates into the human emotion of a loving warmth. Many believe that morality, the essence of religio, is a biological attribute. In other words, humans have a predisposition, and not just humans, but other animals as well, to make judgment calls, what is good and what is not good, for survival sake. Obviously, moral norms were developed in various cultures, and they can differ. For example, in some cultures it is it is immoral to eat beef, for example, while in other cultures that is seen as completely moral. But this essential essence of morality seems to be embedded in the human being, and not just the humans also. And at this point, many in the monotheistic religions, especially Christians, will often posit the question, well, where did this sense of right and wrong, this goodness, come from? And they're positing a God. And remember, there is no provable one male creator being. So why not go with what we can prove? For we Hindus would answer the question by saying that we feel this inherent need to do what is right, this inherent need for love and for living a energetic life which comes from a positive lifestyle, because that's essentially who we are as the Atmana, this soul, if you will, of love and light and energy with a body, mind, and emotions. Also, as a human species, an animal species as well, we evolved into an ability to anticipate our consequences, to choose courses of action, a means to an end. This became then the ethical codes of conduct that in many ways are very similar, be it religious or non-religious. Being kind, being honest, being truthful, helping one's fellow human beings. So in this very real sense, most all are religious in the sense of religio. Now, whether one decides to join a specific religion of the world is another matter, and not really necessary to be religio, to be an honest, ethical person, simply trying to get their self together, to link together body, mind, emotions, figure out what this life is all about. That's perfectly fine. However, if we do decide to join one of these established religious traditions of the world, we have to recognize that and be honest, and not steal from them, to put it bluntly, as in today's so-called yoga and mindfulness, etc. These all come essentially from Hinduism, and mindfulness comes right out of the Buddhist tradition via Hinduism. Or, if we don't decide to follow one of the established religious traditions of the world, maybe we can be truly creative and come up with a brand new one, which would have new terminology. There's always ample room for that. So the vast majority of human beings, whether they know it or not, are actually religious in the sense of religio, except obviously for those who truly are antisocial, the psychopath, the sociopath, who have no moral compass at all. And sadly, this is often the development of something that seriously happened in childhood, and this needs tremendous therapy. But if we forget that we are that inner essence of love and light and energy and get immersed in simply body, mind, emotion pursuits, this is where we can develop various pathologies, stress, anxiety, resultant depressions and suicides. So why not take a look at what it is to be religious, what it is to be a caring, compassionate human being, one who desires to, and it is an inherent human desire, to seek more energy, more light, as opposed to heaviness, depression, and more love. I don't think there's a person alive who would not admit that they did not want to feel love at all, except, of course, in the cases of, again, those who are seriously mentally disturbed and have serious chemical imbalances in their brain. So let's look at ourselves as a soul, to use English, which means incorporeal. It's not the body, mind, and emotions. Hindus would say Atmana, a soul of love and light and energy, and project that out into our body, mind, emotions, thereby setting up the mindset to better care for the body, for the mind, for the emotions, and then radiate that out to our fellow human beings, and then respect their specific choices in life, be they of established religions or not. And if they're established religions, respect the various religious traditions of the world. So when it comes to religion, spirituality, and it's wise to keep those two words together. Try and avoid the erroneous cliche, I'm spiritual but not religious. Remember, the English words spiritual and soul means incorporeal or without a body. So literally, no body can be spiritual. It is religious. Those are the methodologies, the linking, the rituals, the rules, the regulations, the principles that lead one to the spiritual awakening or spiritual realization. So religion obviously has been and continues to be important in the lives of billions of people. So it behooves us to seek a better understanding of this whole religious process. And again, just simply being a good, honest, ethical person, wonderful, fine, great enough. But there are those who choose, as in all areas of life, to go into a more in-depth understanding, appreciation, community relations, etc. And these may be factors from birth, or it may be something that occurs later on in life. So people can be born into a specific religion, and they may stay there, they may leave, they may have no religion at all, and then adopt a religion. There are converts that have ethically left one religion and become another. There are adoptives who were born without any specific religion and assume one, having ethically converted to that religion or adopted that religion. And then obviously many who this means absolutely nothing to them, but just trying to be a good, honest person, which is the religio. So when it comes to being a religious person, here's something that may help to avoid the extremes. The NAT principle, N-A-T. Recognize that one's religion is not no way or always. That's really the spiritual but not religious crowd, the universalist. And it's not the way. Now we often find the swing. Those who believe they have the way, the religion, and every other religion is false at best. Or some swing to the other extreme of a universalism, which is actually a fundamentalism at its core, because there are some specific disciplines one is doing, such as yoga, for example. And they try to make this universal or for the whole world. Be very cautious of anybody who says blank is for everybody, whether it's Jesus is for everybody, or yoga is for everybody, or Hindus for everybody. This is the extreme of the fundamentalist universalist. In fact, the very meaning of the word Catholic is universal. And we know the position of Orthodox Catholics in that regard. So could there be a middle ground, a choice between a universalist and a pure fundamentalist? How about a way? N-A-T. Not no way or always, and not the way, but a way. Would it not be a mature mindset to say that my religion is a way? It's the way for me. It's not the way, and it's certainly not no way. It has very specific teachings and practices. And when it comes to the spirit beings in the many great religions of the world, here we need some reflection, some introspection. We all dream at night, and something is going on there. We're seeing beings there. And there are many people who have had intimate experiences of various spirit beings. So this we can't really totally denounce. If we did that, it'd be very unscientific. So when it comes to these spirit beings, these can be looked at in several ways. And we want to be very careful with the words God, capital G, and gods, little g, which is often used in a definition of religion. Often a first definition is the adoration of God, capital G, and gods, small g. So there's obviously a bias here, perhaps. So who's the capital G God? Who's the one true, real God? Be very careful with this word, and remember that is basically a Christian term. And I think scholars put the small g gods in there to represent that there are other spirit beings, but how insulting to these other spirit beings to not capitalize their names as well. So when it comes to the words God and gods, as obviously as Hindus, this is something that does not pertain to our religion at all. We have the term devas for the many spiritual beings within the Hindu yoga dharma, Hinduism, the Hindu religion. So I would encourage my fellow Hindus to look at our numerous spirit beings. And obviously, if we truly believe we're the soul and someone is dying every moment, they are on the spirit plane. So there are perhaps an infinite number of spirit beings on this astral or spirit plane. So we can look at these spirit beings and their representations in art around the world. We can simply look at the art and appreciate that. That in itself is high culture. In Hinduism, for example, we have innumerable paintings and sculptures in granite, bronze casting, sculptures in wood. And these are great works of art, great craftsmanship. That in itself is enough. That elevates one's consciousness, like walking into a museum and feeling the intense high vibration. And certainly when we look at these different deities, especially in Hinduism, there's obviously a lot of symbolism here. Forearms, human body, elephant head. There's something going on here. So perhaps just learning this symbolism. Remember, a picture is worth a 1,000 words. When you look at a picture of your loved one, it means a lot to you. It can even bring a tear to your eye because you have that connection. So too, in the religions of the world, when people look at their images of spirit beings, it can have a great effect on them because maybe they do have an intimate inner connection, and this is highly personal. And this is everyone's right to have this. No one can give us that or take it away from us. But obviously it is here where we often get into problems when we try to take an invisible spirit being that may be very real to us and try to force that upon the whole world. Obviously, this is the basic fault of monotheism, and especially the largest, Christianity, which tries to force the spirit being of Jesus on the whole world. This is where people completely deny religion at all and become anti-religion. So we can look at our spirit beings in any one of those three ways as simply works of art. Learn the symbolism, and that can be extremely powerful in life. Or if one has an intimate connection, fine, that's one's own personal experience. So finally, as human beings, to get through this life, and as Hindus would say, many lifetimes, we want to try our best to develop this internal sense of confidence, security, love, light, and energy, this inner compass, if you will. So why not a GPS, an internal compass, a direction finder? Gratitude, persistence, and sacrifice, GPS. For us as Hindus, gratitude is dhanyavadaha, persistence is virya, the warrior attitude, sacrifice is yajna, which becomes yoga, the sacred doing of Hinduism. So gratitude, persistence, sacrifice. This can be manifested by daily saying, thank you, I can do this, who can I help? Gratitude, persistence, sacrifice. A simple yet profound exercise that everyone can do. Obviously speaking English. First thing in the morning, say thank you. Say to yourself, I can do this. I can make it through this day, whatever I have to face. And then say, who can I help? If we all helped each other, what a wonderful world it would be. Then go through your day. And then when you hit the pillow at night, just take a moment. Pause and say, did I say thank you to anybody today? Did I accomplish my tasks? If not, I'll try harder tomorrow. And did I help anyone today? This is a profound, simple way to develop that internal moral compass that many, when they're in the depths of confusion and despair, seem to have lost. Gratitude, persistence, sacrifice. Thank you. I can do this. Who can I help? Have a wonderful day in Religio. Namaste. And as a final word on religion, this is obviously something that is of immense value to billions of people, past and present. To simply deny religion, all religious people, is really to deny the emotions, feelings, beliefs, convictions of billions of our fellow human beings. We often in the New Age movement hear people say that, oh, religion divides. Well, life is division. No division, no life. It's what we do with that division. So in the naive claim that we do yoga, for example, and religion divides, and that's why they don't want to recognize Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, the Hindu religion. They'll say religion divides, but think for a moment what one is doing. They're actually dividing themselves from the billions of religious people, past and present. So we recognize that obviously English is the common language around the world, and this is especially to the Hindus. Though, of course, we need a core of Sanskritam. But many Hindus shy away, at best, from the word religion, assuming that this is just about the monotheistic religions, and especially Christianity and Islam. And that's simply not true. Religious scholars use the word religion when defining the various traditions of the world. They cannot use the specific terms of each religion as a general term describing what they do. So religion is the general term, and then we need to respect the specific terms that each religion of the world uses, each faith tradition, if you will. Again, we're using English here. So keeping in mind religio, this attempt to link back, to get ourselves together, this can be a very unifying term. And when we look at the subsequent English term, religion, it's generally defined as adoration of God, capital G, or gods. Now again, here's where we have to tread lightly, and we've discussed this. Who's the capital G God? But in the use of the small g gods, it was at least some way of recognizing that there are other spirit beings that are important to the different traditions of the world. Though we, in those specific traditions, would take umbrage at the use of small g. And so this is why we do not use the word God or gods in the Hindu yoga dharma. Generally, the second definition for religion is systems of worship, and truly this is what defines the religions of the world: devotion, worship. And if we just take a moment and think of the importance of devotion in life, without devotion in general, we will not accomplish any task. When it comes to specifics, for example, Hindus would call devotion bhakti yoga, for example. So we have to keep in mind that there are some very similar meanings, but we have to respect the specifics, obviously. Religio means to link. The Sanskrit Hindu word dharma, essentially duty, religious duties, Hindu duties, principles, traditions, comes from the Sanskrit root dri, meaning to hold. The Sanskrit Hindu word yoga comes from the Sanskrit root yuj, meaning to yoke, Y-O-K-E. So they have very similar meanings, but we have to respect the specifics. When we're speaking of dharma, when we're speaking of yoga, we are speaking about what is known as Hindu Dharma, or Hinduism, or the Hindu religion using English. And again, when Hindus deny the use of the word religion, we are really shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak, for then it gives license to have us completely removed from any discussions on comparative religions. Also, honestly, when Hindu religious groups they incorporate under religion. This is how one gets their 501c3 tax-exempt status. On major forms, hospital, for example, they put religion and they don't put dharma there. So religion is the all-encompassing general term, which we need to understand and then respect the specific terms. So clearly there are numerous religions around the world: Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Sikh, Shinto, Taoism, Confucianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Baha'i, Native American traditions, Hawaiian traditions, the many indigenous traditions around the world, to name a few. So religion is an extremely important part in the lives of innumerable people. Now, within all of these religions, there are obviously different divisions, and this can be natural, as long as we're not fighting one against the other. And these are the various sects of the religions. For example, in the Hindu Dharma, Hinduism, the Hindu religion, we have Saivites and Vaishnavites and Shaktites, Smartas. Christianity, for example, innumerable sects. Broadly, Catholic, Protestant, and Baptist, Methodists, Presbyterians, even Quakers, Mennonites, etc. So this is a valid term within all religions and in all of life when people specialize. You used to have a country doctor that did everything, but today we have so many specialists within the medical field. This is fine. Now, we also hear the word cult, and this has a lot of heat attached to this term. But we have to remember that cult is where we get the word culture from. And we need to look at the definition of cult: intense devotion to a particular person, idea, or thing. So by that definition, a spousal relationship should be a cultic relationship, intense devotion to a particular person. And again, we can see how cultures develop by the intense devotion to arts, culture, food, for example. However, cult often brings up images of a narcissistic leader, especially a religious leader. And obviously this has happened throughout history. So it can become an extremely negative term. And when it comes to religious spiritual life, all of us should really consider what we do in regards to elevating individual people. I think it makes a lot more sense in religion to focus on people practicing principles rather than picture, personality, and price tag. If we see these three red flags, we may be in for a very negative cultic experience. For after all, the goal of religion in general is to connect to the spirit realm, that which goes beyond the body, mind, and emotion. So while we respect the body, mind, emotions, if we get carried away with any religious spiritual leader, we are perhaps going down the opposite road of what the intent of religio is supposed to be. So why not enjoy life? Respect the many, many different aspects of life. We're all in this together. Take life seriously, but not too seriously. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.